that I always used to do, which used to really help me massively, was I'd obviously when I do something crazy, like you're basically when you blow a train account, you're abusing your self. All right. Um, so what you want to do is just make sure that you get your, get your phone out and just record. All right. It could be you crying, you're going to be angry, you're going to have advice. If you do anything crazy, like, blow an account because you've held God, I promise you, record it. Because yeah, it's really gonna help you in the long run. Because then what you want to do is make yourself every time you're thinking of doing it again, you got to make yourself rewatch it, and you'll be surprised. You'll be like, oh, I don't really want to be in that position again. So that's when you're gonna over, leverage or anything. Let's try and have a good year where we're obviously building accounts. I'm going to think of a little challenge to do next week. Not a crazy one, not one that's going to, expose a load of risk, but I'm going to have a think about it today. So yeah, and I'll speak to the team to see what they think too. But yeah, I might do like 1K to, 1.5K, or something crazy. Not that's not going to expose risk, because there is no point in taking 1K to 5K, because you've got to have probably a 45% chance that you're going to blow that account. I did it myself last week. I did it on the so I've done the whole of, December with this 1K account. I think we ended up giving away about 2K and two and a bit K. I took about $400 out of it. So we did, like, from 1K we took out like two and a half to 3K. Now, one thing that obviously I dared gold, I went for it. I blew it because it was that kind of an account, and it really made me think about, it's not really something. Although I didn't lose money, I made money on that account. I still exposed it, and yeah, that's obviously one thing that I want to get out of. So let's just have a look at a few of these messages. Omar, hello Dan. iPhone rocking a very similar look this morning. Yep, yeah, I'm not one who can hop straight in the shower, and I need to have a coffee before I get up. So yeah, I'm in my t-shirt and my, obviously, my tracksuit bottoms. So yeah, and then I'll do this, and then I'll hop in the shower. Linus, good morning everyone, and happy New Year. Richard, good morning, Dan, and everybody. Looking forward to 2026. Yep, 2026 is going to be good. I reckon the copier should be back up and running. If not today, it will definitely be Monday. I've quite respected and liked that they've switched it off um, during Christmas. The liquidity's been so slow. The last thing that we want to be doing is being stuck in a trade. So yeah, I've been pretty happy. Although we obviously haven't made any money out of it, I'm looking forward to getting started when we do again. So let's wait and see how that one works. But right, let's go through everything here. So. We've obviously had a slight flip in what we're kind of looking at here. We've got obviously dollar here, which I think is looking on the edge of turning. We're kind of, how we're going to play today is we're going to play within the range. All right. And so, we're not going to play a huge break account. We're going to be playing pullbacks, because I don't see that continuation coming, as you can see here from the US dollar. Every time it's, kind of looking strong, it's rejecting quite heavily. It's also bouncing off the 200 EMA, so the 200-day average. It's holding above that, and it's holding pretty, sort of steady. So I do think, there's been a bit of cooling as well in regards to, some of the, news in regards to Russia and Ukraine. There's tariff talks are obviously non-existent. So, we've always got to be looking into things like this. So yeah, let's wait and see. But that's obviously what we're going to be looking at this morning. It might change this afternoon if all of a sudden. One thing I will tell you right now, if I'm looking out for, is if this 98,500 area kind of rejects pretty heavily like it did here, then obviously we're going to be, looking into, yeah, something a bit alternate, in regards to what we're going to be doing. So yeah, this afternoon might be slightly different to this morning, but obviously as it happens this morning, we're going to be looking to buy the US dollar. Now, let's go through obviously some of the news. There's not a lot here, but obviously we'll go through it. So, HPI data, negative. We got some Eurozone manufacturing. Nothing's really going to hit hard. Potentially, PMI data for the dollar. That is looking to decrease, but obviously let's wait and see. So let's wait and see. So that's all obviously we've got really of interest today. Chances are by that time we're already gonna be in our afternoon trades anyway, which that's obviously 3 p.m. to 45. It's also not gonna be wild news. All right. It's not because anything above, the only way this would be wild is if this come out at 49. All right. Which is, below the 50, that, magic 50, number on PMI data. So remember, anything above, 50 shows an expanding economy. Anywhere below, shows that it's despanding, deflating, however you want to explain it. So that's the chances of that happening are very, very slim. Probably like 98% chance that it won't happen. So yeah, that's obviously one thing we're going to be looking at here. Yields, really starting to climb. This was one of the optimisms that I had. I like, how much they've climbed. We're in the top. We've had this range marked out for ages. And I like how it's reaching this upper, limit of the range here. So let's wait and see. Excuse me. How that one pans out, but I'd like to, it'd be interesting if this either way breaks out of that, range, then we can use this as a very, very strong tool to get our directional bias from. So number one today was USD JPY. Yen overall is weak, as we can see here. It's probably the weakest pair today. It's down on everything. So I obviously don't, I mean, you could have entered straight away this morning. However, like always, we want to wait for this pullback. We don't want to, you can see here January, where are we? January here, we've got a clean slate. We've got a lot of trading days too. So we've got 21 trading days left, right? 21 trading days left in January. So let's make sure there are good 21 days, and obviously we want majority of them green. So this is why we've got to obviously instill a bit of patience here. Um, Next, I think I'm just going to have a little look for what the order I put them in because I've completely forgotten. So then we obviously had gold. Gold, I'm looking for obviously this basically to stay in this range here. I can't see us breaking out of this range. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to end up doing here. And yeah, I'd like this to trigger, and then obviously we can capitalize on it here and hopefully get this nice downside move, at least coming just, shy of equaling this previous low here, So that is one thing that I'm looking at here. If we're looking at liquidity, yes, we could have put our entry a little bit higher up. However, we've obviously had a little bit of liquidity here. We've had a nice rejection here, and plus we obviously got the 200 EMA as well. So, it's a good spot to put our entry. Plus, if we're breaching above this 4,450, we're kind of going to invalidate this downward move here. So right now we've got this move happening here. It could potentially, creep lower. If obviously we invalidate this, then obviously what have we done? We've made a new high, so trend changes. All right, so you've always got to go with trend. That's the previous, lower high. If we invalidate this, then obviously this rather than resistance becomes support. Very, very easy, trading 101. And then, we're going to look to be potentially changing our overall bias here. So just to make you guys aware of that one. Um, just let this person in. Right, there we go. So that was number two. Number three was GBP USD. I think this was close to being triggered again. The pound is weighing heavy. So I am looking for just this area. I'm sure everyone can understand why this is our, sell zone here. We've obviously had a lot of indecision, so it's you've always got to when you're looking at price action, all right, and we can even go back here, all right. So you can highlight an area like this, all right. So if we're highlighting this area here, all right, just imagine it as kind of you're walking and it's mud, yeah, all right. This is quite heavy here, all right, and so you can obviously understand how, for example, this move here is blasted straight through, very, very easy. But all this, struggled here to break through. It's like walking through, thick mud. Um, so yeah, this move obviously comes up, and obviously I haven't really drawn this very well. But obviously, if this is our, mud here, then we're not going to want to walk back through that, are we? And so price will come up, test the water a bit, and obviously then continue higher. And obviously that's what's ended up happening. So just in, the reason I use the analogy of mud is because even when it comes up here, it should be pretty slow. If for example it blasts straight through, we know that we've got this completely wrong, and it's now going to come back into this mud and find it hard to go through. So it's going to turn around and go the other way. That's a very, very kind of basic way of looking at it. We then had Euro USD here, which I don't think this one's gonna hit. I think this moves on. But obviously I've marked it up anyway. I didn't really want to enter anywhere else. I want to be around the 200. So yeah, I obviously liked this entry here. So let's wait and see. But I think this moves on. And AUD which has tapped. So this is a trade that we are in. So yeah, I like this, in regards to gold too. I want gold to tap us in, and then obviously we'll be on AUD and gold. But yeah, so just going to be monitoring this again. Stops are obviously in this place here because we're currently working our way through a bit of a downtrend here. Yeah, all right. But obviously, what would happen if price just blasted straight through and made a new high? Obviously, it's a new trend. Yeah, because we'll have done this and then we'll have blasted through all this price action here. Yeah, and we'd have made our new trend. All right, so try and I know it's very, very easy, very, very obvious. Remember, anywhere within here is good. You don't have to enter here. or obviously what I do sometimes is I'll enter at the entry and then I might add an additional entry if we reach it because it is quite rare that we obviously reach the upper band of the entry level. So yeah, but let's wait and see. And I think that is about it from me in regards to what I'm looking at. Why? Let's have a look at a few of these questions. AUD triggered. Yep. Right. Let's go through here. What app do you use to document your P&L? There's lots of journals. You got Tradezilla, which you got to pay. I think 50 quid a month. I've used that before. There's another one. Um, I'm obviously using Trade Tab because it's free. All journals are a little bit behind, but obviously I quite like Trade Tab. I've actually worked on this project too. So it's a project that I've worked on, and yeah, it's got everything here. Yes, it's not 100% accurate, but it's probably 99%. It's actually more accurate than Tradezilla, which you have to pay for, but obviously it hasn't got all the extra, features. But obviously, journal, metrics is yeah, brilliant. There's loads of things that you can do on here as well. Like there's, and settings you can do where, if you wanted a monthly profit goal of say 1,000 over say 21 trading days, don't include the weekends. Let's do this, and then it'll give you your plan. Yeah. All right. So there's lots of things that the team have implemented, but yeah, and it'll obviously go through your trading psychology, which is coming soon, withdrawal plans, everything. So if you want to make a withdrawal on, say, for example, the 27th, and you want to make a withdrawal, say 2,000. All right, it will then obviously implement that into your calendar. Yeah, it is good. It is good. So yeah. Um, right. So yeah, that is it. I'm not going to be able to get rid of this now, but there we go. There we go. But right, let's go through some other stuff. Let's go through some of these questions here. ADUC triggered not for me. Which number did you use for your entry? Sell rather than a buy. Sell comes first. You should get better entry now. The market execution. Anyway. Okay, cool. Yeah, no. So obviously, AUD has triggered. Remember to obviously check, through everything. I do want everyone not to obviously to just enter anything blindly. Yes, we've got a very, very high win rate, but obviously I want you guys to, not just to enter, blindly. I want you to, really, really kind of understand, and yeah, kind of, yeah, make sure that you are, happy with, the obviously the trades that I'm documenting. Because one interesting thing, psychologically about trading that no one realizes is everyone's, we could have 20 traders in this room here, and everyone's eyes will see a trade completely differently. And obviously, that's one thing that no one will ever teach you on a course or anything because, yes, I guess in theory, if they've got this, strategy and it's profitable and it works for, them, but everyone has to understand the biometrics of your eyes, your sight, and the connection between here and here, and how everyone's gonna see things ever so slightly differently. So what I obviously try and do a bit differently is I obviously understand this. I've done some work on it. So I understand that that's obviously one thing why I've implemented these areas, all right? Because you might look at this and think, I don't really agree with this area, but actually I agree with it from here, So then you might put your entry up here, but it just gives you that, scope to kind of yeah, it's almost a bit like training wheels, but obviously you're riding your bike on your own, so make sure that you're really, looking into it. And I also think as well, um, one thing that I'd recommend everyone to try, all right, is because you're not gonna know your strengths and weaknesses in trading by copying, just flat out straight copying. All right. You're going to learn your strengths and weaknesses by taking your own trades. So 100%, if you don't feel comfortable right now, then what I recommend you do, put like a, $100 in, or if you want a demo account, demo. But obviously, I do think having a bit of skin in the game just changes your, mindset because it doesn't matter whether it's 10 quid, 100 quid, 1,000 quid. No one wants to lose it. So what I would recommend is preparing this, say, $100, which is about 78 quid. All right. Plan it in an account, and I want you to take two of your own trades every day. All right. Use obviously risk or trade it however you want to. But what you can do then is at the end of each week, you can almost, do a bit of a breakdown on obviously how you've traded that account. How would you trade it differently? Yes, it's going to hurt if you blow it. Not really hurt, but it's going to be annoying if you blow it. But obviously, then what you can do is you can then really, really, look into, well, why have I blown it? And then obviously in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you're compiling data on you. All right. And if you're just, copying, yes, you might obviously over, leverage, or, you might revenge trade, but actually, you're not really getting that the day data on you about, right, I'm better with these pairs. I'm not very good with yen. Like I'll hold my hands up. There's things that obviously I'm not the best at, like I've managed to obviously work out what those things are, and obviously I don't do them because that's the beauty of Forex. There's plenty of currencies out there. And there will be ones that you're not particularly good at. You probably know the ones that you're not particularly good at right, now. So I would say pairs that I'm not the greatest at, GBP AUD, GBP JPY, I'm not bad, but obviously I just have I'm more profitable on other pairs. So as much as sometimes I might want to take a quicker trade, faster, but if my win percentage is higher here, why am I even going to bother here? So, but you're not going to know that until you obviously compile some data about you. And I think the only way that you can do that, don't copy anyone. You've got, $100 there. You're not really worried about how much you're going to make, but it doesn't matter. Your brain will still trade how you want to, trade, and then what we can do, because everyone asks me, oh, how can I improve? How can I improve? And actually, my answer is exactly the same to everyone. It's just the data. All right, we need to compile, because if we don't know what type of a trader you are, and obviously what ends up happening lots of times, you'll come from my community into someone else's community into someone else, hoping for this quick, kind of fix. Um, Truth is, probably 90% of communities out there will not hop on a, live. They'll draw you in with a car. But, so just be aware of that. You just want to compile your own data. And then I promise you, after a week, sorry, after a month, you will notice patterns of things which you can work on. And then after, 3 months, because until you start compiling it, you're not going to be able to, you're not going to realize that there will be issues there which you do every single day, or, you might be brilliant for 4 days, and then one day just, you know, boom, heads off. So just be aware of that. But yeah, I definitely recommend everyone to do that. So yeah. Andy, on entry for gold, when you say 4390 to 4420, I should look at the price that comes first or any price between. So let's go look on gold now, and obviously just so yes, Andy. So we're obviously looking to sell this. All right. If blue is our profit area, potentially red is the stop loss area. All right. So what I'm looking for here is this anywhere within this box. I'm obviously happy to enter. All right. So, normally, obviously, everyone can take this, how how they want to. Normally, I will always enter on the entry, all right, because that's just what I'm happy to. I'm comfortable in a bit of drawdown, and obviously, one thing that I'm going to try and educate everyone this year is to ignore candles. And I know it's hard. It's going to be really hard. All right. But I want everyone to ignore candles because, yeah, I just think that they are, especially as you start going down into to like, the sort of 15-minute time frame, they they're trickers. A bit like here. All right. Everyone's going to be looking to buy here. All right. And what ends up happening? Boom, you know? So yeah, I really want to. I'm gonna go into to a lot more detail here on, just looking at, where prices congregated, where support is, where resistance is, and then having an area, as opposed to an exact entry. All right, that's where Andy, I do things, slightly differently because, like, I fairly understand, and obviously one thing I used to get a lot was if I had for example, my only entry was 4-3, 9-10. All right. The same for example, you've gone for breakfast and you come back half an hour later and prices, has come in, it's tapped and then it's gone, or if price is up here. Sorry, just get rid of that. Price is up here. It's very, very easy to, kind of realize. And what I would do is draw these boxes on your own charts, because what I've done, and I did it on Wednesday, was gold was obviously here. Say it was the other way around, but obviously gold was here. Price creeped up here. It then tapped to the top end. I've then entered again, and then price doesn't have to come down that much further. I think price went to about here, and it was in huge profit, So yeah, just obviously utilize it as an area. Like I said, I explained earlier. We've got gold is in this trend here, yeah? All right. So what should happen if trend continues is we should see something like this happen, yeah? Now, if if this area that doesn't hold, all right, which is, can happen, then obviously, and if we've got our stop loss here, so if we obviously blast up through this, and then we come back down. What has happened here with trend? We obviously had a, lower high, lower low. We've now got a higher high. It's just trading the basics. I do obviously utilize a lot of the basics because it's easy to understand. But that's where you want your, stop loss to be. I explained obviously how hedge funds worked. the other day, and obviously that's why I don't normally hold to a TP. Because yeah, I've obviously had various meetings. I've got another one booked in soon, but they will buy stock. All right. Now their analysts might have expectations of price being here, or price being here, or even price being here. Now, what they will do, so I've done a really bad drawing there. So they will, let me do it with this because it'll be easier. Right. So imagine they're buying a stock, yeah? All right. So they bought it and it's like this, yeah? All right. They've bought down here, yeah? Right. Analysts might have identified this area or potentially this one here. All right. They're going to keep holding. All right. Now, when would a hedge fund, stop or close out? All right. Then they would hold out until price breaks through here. All right. And then this would be the entry, which they would close out. Now, we're going to think that's crazy. Yeah. All right. Because they've missed out on all of this profit here. But actually, if they've entered here, and obviously they've had a few overall, targets here. They still made all of this profit here. Yeah. All right. Because, price has come up, from obviously their entry. Now they are happy to swallow this. And obviously this is a bit of how I, lay out where my, my stop losses are, so for example, if we were going to enter, some in here, our stop loss would need to be here. All right. Now, why would it be here? Because, if trend is trending to the upside here and this breaks, that means we've invalidated this trend. All right. So then, trend should then, start to move this way around. Yeah. All right. So, that's obviously where you want to have you know, your sort of stop loss. Jack, I usually put three lots on within the range, smaller lot size at the nearest entry, and then a larger one, a smaller lot size, the nearest entry, then a large one at the furthest away. So if it doesn't trigger, the profit will be bigger with a smaller loss if it goes the wrong way. Good idea, that like that. I like that. But if the nearest entry is the only one to tap in, do you then find that your losses can be bigger than your wins? Shouldn't do. No, because again, we've obviously got directional bias. I've been explaining this. I'm actually doing a paper on it, at the moment. I'm about halfway through directional bias. I wanted to write like a bit of a, thesis on it because it's, everyone's into their risk to reward, So for example, if you got like a 1 to 3, if you got a 1 to 3 here, and then you obviously, yeah, you got your three trades, you can technically, everyone can understand this, yeah, all right, because you can technically win one, lose two, and still be break even. Now, what if your directional bias was right? Probably, you know, probably two times out of, three. So you don't even need to cover this. You don't need to stress about having price hit TPP, but if you know that you're going to get it the right direction, 80, I reckon I get it the right direction about 85, 88% of the time. All right. Then you don't you there this is very, very slim because all of a sudden we need 10 of these and we're gonna get 8.8 right. All right, but not to TP, just the directional, right. So if we got this tiny stop loss here on like one and call it 18%, right, and we hit this twice out of 10, but we're taking profit here, we're taking profit here, we're taking profit here. You're going to be in huge profit because you're obviously working on your directional bias. Whereas actually the chance of you hitting one in three is probably less chance than one in three. So yeah, yeah. So that is it. Does anyone have any more questions? Otherwise, I've made this quite a long one. Um, Otherwise, I'm gonna log off. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. We're gonna have an epic year this year. Remember that there's the at trading into results tagged. So obviously, you guys can obviously message me, and I will, get back to you, with voice note or videos or pictures. If you've got any questions, but yeah, make sure that you are documenting everything because obviously, I really, really want to, I want you to start to understand who you are as a trader. And you can't do that if you're just obviously copying. So just be aware of that. But yeah, right. Have a great day, everyone. We got one day and then we got a weekend. But yeah, hopefully, next week we can start flying again. So I think gold looking like it's triggering. So let's go, guys. Have a good one. Have a good one.